This lecture is about the following question: how to read the curriculum. And I'm going to start by telling you about some research that was done in Sweden in the 70s. And the results that they achieved have been confirmed in several similar tests and research later. So what they did in this research was that they asked the group of students to read a text, and then they were given an exam. And after the exam, they asked the students, how did you read? How did you read this text? How did you prepare for this exam? And what they discovered was that those who had received quite good grades, they read in a quite similar way. And those who had received bad grades, they also read in a quite similar way. And you can try to guess now. Take a few seconds to think, how do I think that those people read who gets the best grades for their exam? Think about that now. If you want to think more about it, just press pause and then you can continue afterwards. The two different groups gave two different answers, and these were the answers. First group, they said, when we prepare for this exam, we try to read the text quite slowly, thoroughly, try to remember details, and think about what we would be asked for in the exam. The other group, they said, I read quite quickly, tried to find out what the text or the author was talking about, or what kind of position they had in with regard to a certain question, and then I try to think about what do I think about this question. So which of these two groups do you think received the better grades? Think about that for 10 seconds now. The students who got the best grades were those who answered that they had read quite fast, tried to find out what the author was wanted to say something about, or the text was arguing, and then thought about what did they think themselves. And the reason is that when they read, they activated what they already knew from before, and they could then add this new information onto what they already knew, and they were more actively engaged when they read the text, engaged and mentally and psychologically and existentially, because they were trying to say or find out what did they think for themselves. So this means then that when you read texts preparing for an exam, you should try to activate yourself in the same way. Try to find out what is it that this text is discussing. What is it that this author or text is trying to say something about? And what do I think? Do I agree? Do I not disagree? And why do I agree or disagree? Of course, some texts will be more straight information. Luther was born in 1483. Then you shouldn't think, well, when do I think that he was born? Then you should just note that and move on. But very often then, it will be texts that present some kind of discussion, because much of academic writing is about different positions on different questions, and we want you to participate in that. And also when you are given exams, you are often given a kind of question that we want you to discuss, and we want to hear your opinion and your evaluation on this. So reading that way will prepare you better for the exam. When you then start on a new book to read it, you should look at the pages quickly, see what does it seem that this book is about, try to make up an opinion on what you think the book is about, and what you think about the questions that this book is about. And then you can start reading more slowly and ask questions to the text as you go along, and think about, well, what do I think about this? I think that it will be easier to read and it will be easier to remember. And it's also good if you make notes while you write. But I will talk more about how to take notes while you read, in a later lecture. It's when you read a book, it's also good to try to see if there's some question there that can engage you more. Is this book relevant for me in some sense? Can I need this in my work later? Or why is this book relevant for me? For example, in XFAC here at MF, we have a topic called critical thinking, where you learn about interpretation and definition and arguments, what make them presumptuous or good or different things. And that can be quite boring if you just read it as a long list of facts. But you can also try to think, oh, this book is trying to show me how to be better to argue and how to be able to discuss better and give better arguments and so on. And that's something I'm going to need in discussions with people and when I write discussions and so on. And then it's much more interesting to run, okay, how can I give good definitions, or how can I interpret these words and be precise when I try to make a point, or what is it that makes the argument good so that I can tell other people what's bad with their arguments and so on. So that makes it more interesting. Or if you read about different worldviews, instead of just reading about what did Marx think or what did some other people think, try to think, okay, what is my worldview? Why do I hold on to this worldview instead of another? Do they have some better arguments than me in different questions? Or how can I defend that this is what I think as opposed to someone else? Or maybe I should change. Maybe there are some other worldviews better argued than mine and so on. It makes it a lot more interesting and fun to read. Also good if you can get some information about the book in advance. Maybe you can read someone has written a review online, or you can ask the teacher or listen to some lecture about it, or maybe some older students have taken the course before you and you can ask them about this book, what's it about, is it good, or what did you think, or and so on. Then you're much more prepared and it's much easier to read and remember. It might seem strange that it's easier to remember things when you read fast than when you read slowly. But the reason is that we have a short-term memory, and it can hold up to around about roughly 8 elements at a time. So that's why it's you're able to remember a telephone number, but it's more difficult to remember a 15-digit number. And what's relevant is then that when you read a text, if you read it slowly, your short-term memory will pick up a lot of details, but it will be more difficult to follow the larger red thread through the text. It's easier to, if you read more fast or faster, then you see the bigger lines and you're able to hold different arguments and so on in your head and see the bigger picture. Whereas if you read too slowly, you fall off, well, what is this book about now? So that's why it's good to try to read fast. And most people can learn how to read faster and will also gain from that. So try to do that. Try to read more quickly through the text. Focus on, in the beginning, the introduction, which says what the book is about. And in the beginning and start of every new main section, then you can slow a bit down, and then you can speed up again, and you can exercise and become better at reading fast. It's if you are able to read the newspaper in 1 hour and roughly then say afterwards what was the main information of that newspaper, then you should also be able to read a book in a day. There's even a new app now for cell phones. That helps you read faster. We'll see if that catches on. I just heard about this a couple of days ago, but they've discovered that in every word there's something called the optimal recognition point. That's where in the word should you look in order for your brain to understand the word in the fastest possible way. And they've discovered that that's just to the left of the middle of the word. So this app, it marks this letter that is just to the left of the middle of the word with red, so that you spot it right away. And I tried to read with this app, and I found that it was easy to read 500 words per minute. And if you read with that speed, you can read a lot of curriculum in a short time. So we'll see if that catches on. But I'll put up some points now about reading the curriculum. And the first point is that you should start soon at the beginning of the semester, start reading the curriculum. Don't wait until exam is almost there. That's the advice that students often give when they write evaluations. They say, I should have started to read earlier on in the semester because I kept extending or postponing it, and then I couldn't finish reading it all before the exam. And that's my second point, that you should read everything. And the reason is that you don't know what you'll be asked for in the exam, and it's quite a waste if you read 80% and the exam is about the last 20% that you didn't read. So it's better to get through all, then you can feel quite comfortable before the exam. You know, okay, I've been through it all. It can't come any really big surprises, and you're safe, and you don't risk having wasted a lot of time. So, but you might be anxious then, or think, oh, how am I going to make that? I'm going to the dentist on Monday, and I have international coffee hour on Wednesday, and I'll be watching TV on Friday. So how is this supposed to happen? Well, as I said just a minute ago, you can try to read faster, and most people will have a benefit from that you'll see the bigger lines. So it can be a good thing to try to read faster. And you can also read with a plan. That means that you look at your semester and then look at the curriculum you have, the number of pages that you have, and you divide and you see, okay, if I read this many pages every day, then I can get through, and you can even put that in your calendar. I should read this then and this then. Much easier than to actually get through all the curriculum if you have such a reading plan. Final point here, read before lectures. Most teachers here at MF, they will say what the topic is about and what pages from the curriculum is relevant to this lecture. And if you have read that before, then it's much easier to understand what the teacher is talking about. It's much easier to ask interesting questions and get good answers and so on. So you'll get much more out of the lecture. And even if you don't have time to read all, just try to skim quickly through the text so you get a rough idea about important themes, important names, and so on. Easier to learn and remember what has been talked about. That's what I had to say about reading the curriculum.